I have it is 10 o'clock. Apologize for having to do this over Polycon. Just not possible for me to make it to Burr Ridge today. But we'll do the best we can. So I am going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the Rails Board meeting. I am Laura Turner, President of the Rails Board, and I will call this meeting to order on Friday, May 24th at 10 a.m. Emily, can you call the roll?
Sure. Christine Barr. Dave Barry. Sue Busenbark.
Here.
Liza Campbell.
Here.
Michael Campbell.
Here.
Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Jay Caston.
Here.
Paul Mills.
Here.
Scott Poynton.
Here.
Dee Runnels. Nadia Sheikh.
Here.
Michelle Simmons.
Here.
Thomas Stagg.
Here.
And Laura Turner.
Here. Okay, we will go to recognition of guests, and I'm going to ask for public comments at the same time. It's just easier than going through two sites twice. So we're going to get started here in East Peoria. Do we have any guests in East Peoria?
Kendall Orison, Rails.
Robert Morgan, Rails.
I have no comments.
Any public okay. No public comments here in East Peoria. We will move on to Bolingbrook. Any guests in Bolingbrook? So I'm assuming there's no public comments since there's no guests. Okay, Burr Ridge. Guests in Burr Ridge?
Emily Feister, Rails.
Jane Plass, Rails.
Deirdre Brennan, Rails.
Karen Egan, Illinois State Library.
Greg McCormick, Illinois State Library.
Stacy Palmisano, Rails.
Dan Bostrom, Rails.
Joe Philippek, Rails.
Anna Duff, Rails.
Damon Warfield, Rails.
Wesley Smith, Rails.
Robin Service Caterpillar.
Branch Halter, Rails.
Layla Heath, Rails.
Anna Beam, Rails.
Ann Slaughter, Rails.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
Mark Hatch, Rails.
And no public comments, or unless anybody has any public comments? No.
Okay. Guests in Coal Valley. That looks like no one, so no public comments. Anyone at the Illinois State Library? Okay, so no public comments from there. And Monmouth College.
No guests are here.
Okay, so no guests and no public comments. All right, we will move to adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion and second for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved. Paul, that was me, just Laura, to make it easier for you. Paul moved.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
Second, go ahead.
do we have a second? Okay,
Second.
so we have moved by Paul, second with Gwen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have Jim with the financial report and expenditures.
Minutes first.
Oh, I am so sorry. Sorry. Okay. Approval of the Rails Board minutes, financial reports, and expenditures. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the April 26th Rails Board meeting?
So moved by Jay.
Second by Scott.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Now we have Jim with the financial report and expenditures.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we have the financial report for the month of April. And our highlights are we have $14.4 million in unassigned general fund cash and investments that we're still over the year's funding mark, almost 15 months. Our revenues continue to exceed budget because of the receipt of a good portion of last year's area and per capita grant revenues. They're $1,800,000 over budget, and the APC is just under 1.8 million. Our investment income continues strong. It's $271,000 through April. I've raised our forecast. It should now exceed $330,000 for the year. It's becoming a pretty significant source of revenue. Our budget was $219,000. Our expenditures remain well below budget. They're $814,000 due to the same variances in personnel, contractual services, buildings and grounds, and professional services, and these should stay favorable throughout the year. Most of the personnel expenditure favorableness was due to delayed hirings, which for the month of April were pretty well completed, as we had 5 new hires during the month of April, which I listed in the report, plus 2 transfers of internal people who were already employed to higher positions. So that's very nice from a human resources standpoint, that these opportunities became available. The contractual services were lower mostly because of the LSEP membership grants being less favorable, but we will be awarding some more of those in the next month or two. Delivery expenditures remain below budget, as do LSAP support expenditures. Together, these comprise around 50% of our operating expenses. And one other thing I wanted to mention, this will be a new activity for fiscal year 20, but it won't have any impact on our revenue expenditures. But we have agreed to do the overture billing for the Electronic Content Consortium, as they had a contractor that used to do that, and they have terminated that relationship, and we are going to pick that up for no charge. It's basically overdrive billing for the consortium. RSA already does this activity for many of its members. And what we will be doing is a once-a-year billing for fiscal year 20 to their 111 libraries, and for $383,000 and a little change. And we will bill and collect the funds and then disperse them at their direction, with maybe some input from us. We're still negotiating that for their content purchases throughout the year. So it's another little service that we're providing for various consortia.
I think it's a pretty big service, actually. This used to be My Media Mall, right? Can never remember, yes. And this is a great service that we can offer to 111 libraries,
Right.
some of which I think are in Heartland also, and at no charge. So it's a really appropriate thing for Rails to do, and I thank the finance department for seamlessly incorporating it.
We're happy to do it.
Jim, Dee had just mentioned it's 111 libraries. What's their total budget for their consortium?
The billings will amount to just over $383,000.
For 100. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. They sent us a list last week. So we're setting it up in our system for some new customers, of course, but
I'm sure some of your libraries are in it, I would think. I don't remember which libraries, but it wouldn't surprise me if yours is, Jay. Yeah.
so with that, are there any questions on the financial report?
All set, Laura.
Okay. May I have a motion for the approval of the check voucher register for March 2009? Is that supposed to say April 2019 instead of March?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Okay. May I have a motion for the approval of the check voucher register for April 2019?
Okay,
I'll
it's
make the
in
motion,
amount-
Nadia.
I think we had
I'll
several
second.
people make. Okay.
The amount is $1,066,240.11.
Emily, did you get who made the first
Yes, Nadia
motion?
made the,
Okay.
Michael seconded.
Okay. So this is a roll call.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Liza Campbell,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory, Jake Caston,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Nadia Shake,
Yes.
Michelle Simmons,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
and Laura Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we
Okay,
just check and
motion
see if
carried.
Dave Barry, I just want to see if Dave Barry has joined us by phone. He was going to, he thought he'd be here a little bit after 10. Are you out there, Dave? Not yet. Okay.
Okay. That motion carried. We will move on to reports. The report from the Rails president, I do not have one. So we will go into committee reports. Advocacy Committee, Gwen, do you have a report?
No, the Advocacy Committee did not meet this month. We're scheduled to meet before the next board meeting.
Okay. Consortia Committee, Paul?
I do not have a report, ma'am, as the committee has not met.
Okay. The Executive Committee has not met, so no report. Nominating Committee, D?
Yes, the nominating committee met yesterday to confirm the results of the election, which did close on May 17th. And they did confirm the results. And so I will begin calling the candidates after this holiday weekend. We've notified them of that. I'm going to be traveling, and I'm sure some of them are going to be traveling. It just seems simplest to tell them in advance, tell everybody in advance. We'll call you on Tuesday. So that's that, and they are. The committee will now is working on the slate of officers, which will be presented to you all as a slate at the June meeting.
Okay.
That is my report.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when will the election results be public?
After I contact all of the candidates, we will. I will notify the board, and then we will begin to publicize it. But sometimes it takes a while, so if you don't hear from me, don't.
Will you be able to fill my
Yes.
position? Good.
Yes.
I did that in the right timing.
Yes, thank you, Liza. I'm sorry for you to go, but if you have to go.
If I have to go, I did it at the right time.
Yes. Yes, this, the way that we do this, when we have an unexpected vacancy, which unfortunately we have had several of them, and we have another one with Liza is going to Florida. And her last day at Peoria is June 1st, is that right?
June 20th.
June 12th, okay.
Yeah.
Before the board meeting.
Right.
So this is her last meeting, and so we were able to incorporate that vacant seat into the election.
Policy Committee, Paul?
Thank you, ma'am. The committee has not met, although we do have an action item related to the policy committee under new business, which I thought we would just discuss at that time.
Okay. Resource Sharing Committee, Jane?
The committee has not met.
Makes for fast board meetings. Universal Service Committee. Sue and Dee.
We have not met, however, Dee did some research and there's an update under new business.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Exactly.
Okay, we will move on to Rails reports. The Rails monthly report, Dee?
Yes, thank you. So you have my written report. I wanted to also tell you that the NIC libraries, also known as the Northern Eight, which are the libraries of Woodstock, Talcott, I'm not going to remember them all, North Suburban Library District,
Cherry Valley.
Ida, several others went live. We can show you on the map. Did go live with Prairie Cat on
Diggins?
Wednesday or Tuesday. So that is great to have them in that consortium, and they were very appreciative. They were once before, I believe, the members of Prairie Cat. I'm sure that there are people in this room who can verify that. And so, yeah, and so we are glad to have them back in, thanks to the LSAP's membership support grant. It's good for Prairie Cat. It's good for the libraries that are, the NIC libraries. It's good for the users. It's good. It's a great day for resource sharing. And we got a note from Mary Petro at North Suburban thanking everybody. So it was very, very good. So is that you, Dave?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Dave. We're just
Good morning.
Good morning. We're just at my report, actually. So welcome. And attached to this report is a memo from Julie Tappendorf, and related to. I wanted you all to be aware of this. That we asked her to work on related to a situation that Paul actually alerted us to about a couple months ago, I think. It's a very peculiar kind of situation, but as the beginning of the memo says, government entities have been encountering people entering public spaces to take photographs and video or film of employees, members of the public, etc. And there has been confusion about what is legal, what are the rights of these people to do that, and where does privacy come up against that, which is always a big issue in libraries. And these have mostly occurred, I think, in police stations and city halls, but there have been some in libraries. And this has been designed, frankly, to make staff look bad, like they don't know what they're doing, and to cause problems. And so we wanted all of our members, all libraries in Illinois, to be aware of this so that they could be sure that their policies were lined up and that they knew how to react to this. So I put it here so that to be sure that all the board members have it as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
The video that accompanied this, was that a real video?
Yes.
Or it wasn't staged? That was
No.
just.
It's really a nasty thing, I think, a sign of the times, I guess. Just, trying to put people in a bad position.
I'd actually come across it through the they don't call themselves this, but the equivalent of the Wisconsin State Library.
Right.
Had put a memo out about it, which I became aware of it. So I read a lot of things.
Yes, you do.
But I really would like to thank Dee and Rails for putting this together. I think this is a really important piece for libraries. There's any type of tied to any public entity need to be aware of this.
Right.
So has this only really happened in public libraries? Has it happened in other types of libraries that you have heard of?
Most of for libraries, as Dee noted, I've heard of very few incidents in public libraries. It tends to be municipal offices, although there have been some libraries. I think Wisconsin did report it might have happened in a library.
And Missouri, wasn't it?
Missouri.
Peoria, Missouri?
It's our neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's out there. And I mean, certainly I think you are eligible
Yes.
as a public building. So,
If I may, I'd also like to congratulate Dee and the rail staff on Nick joining Prairie Cat. Is a really wonderful thing. I was actually there at the divorce.
oh gosh,
Back in, so it's great to see a family reunited.
yes, yes. We won't dwell on the unnecessary drama and dollars. We will just rejoice going forward. So,
Going back to the video,
Yes.
do they put it such as on YouTube or something?
yes, that's exactly where, yes.
My understanding is several lawsuits have been filed. I don't think any of them have reached a resolution stage, though. So those certainly cases to watch, which I suspect Ansel Glink will be watching.
Yes,
if
they had not heard of it, Paul. So,
glad to be of service.
well, I mean, seriously, they as well. I mean, lots of our library attorneys have more than just libraries as clients, and so it's certainly it's something. It's not the kind of thing you don't want to know about and have it happen to you. So, any questions?
Okay. No, this is Laura. I just have a comment
Yes.
about the new video that's going to come out on why libraries are still important. I'm really looking
Yes.
forward to seeing that video, and I'm really glad we're doing that.
Good. Yes, and we had a meeting, I think it's actually in the report that we had the meeting, and, stressed very strongly that this has to be library type agnostic. So I'm
Nice.
confident that they can do it.
Great. Okay.
I have a quick question that I was wondering about Elevate.
Yep.
I know it said how many people were there. Do you have a breakdown of what kind of library the different people were from? Just to.
We can
I was
get you
interested-
one.
Okay, I was just interested in participation from different types of libraries.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we were there. Several of us were there. I would say it was pretty diverse. I mean, I had a group I was a facilitator, and in my group I had somebody from Bradley University. I had a school librarian. A couple public libraries. So I know it was definitely
Great, that's
not
great.
just, but we can get you the actual breakdown. I bet Joe can get it before the end of the meeting, right, Joe?
Because I've been trying to.
This is
publicize
Nadia,
it
but I wanted
different
to
people.
I wanted to comment
Oh, yes.
on Elevate also,
Yes.
and I just wanted to say it was so fabulous. It was my first time up to the Illinois State Library, and I thought Rails had a very nice presence there, and the people that were at my table were phenomenal. And we still keep in touch. And the speaker, I think his name was Adam Goodman. He was phenomenal. I mean, I took back everything that I learned, and I actually put it to use at our most recent board meeting. It was about building effective teams, and I hope I can attend in the future because it was remarkable.
Mm-hmm. That is great, Nadia. Thank you. And I know Laura went 1 year.
Yeah.
And
I went last year, and I agree with what Nadia said. It was really great. Really enjoyed it and found it very useful.
And Adam Goodman is at Northwestern and is a trustee at Evanston, so that he is very kind to us in his billing level, shall we say?
Well, that's nice.
So.
All right. Anything else on Dee's report? Okay. We will go to Anna with the Service of the Month report.
Hello. So I'm Anna Beam. I'm the e-content specialist here at Rails. I'm going to give you an update on sort of what's new with e-content here at Rails. And so I'm going to talk mostly about the two e-content platforms that we provide, eRead Illinois and BiblioBoard. And so I'm going to start with eRead Illinois. So just a quick refresher on what eRead Illinois is. It started off as a grant-funded project in 2013, along with the Illinois Heartland Library System. And the goal was sort of to expand ebook access across the state of Illinois. Since 2015, it has been supported by member fees, so it is no longer grant supported. It is primarily a popular materials collection hosted on Access 360's, on Baker and Taylor's Access 360 platform, and they operate a one book, one user model for that. I've got, if you have the memo that's in the board report, there's a little table. It gives you sort of the breakdown of the members of eRead Illinois. We have over 400 libraries that have joined. I just want to make a quick note that the number of school libraries that's on there, that's an approximation. I had to go by the number of agreements that have been signed to join for the schools. Sometimes schools join as complete districts, sometimes they join as individual buildings. So it was a little tough to come up with an exact number for that, but the population served should be accurate. So what's new with eRead Illinois? I wanted to highlight a few things that we've been working on over the last year. One of them is collection development. So the focus of the collection development for eRead Illinois has really been on popular materials for the last several months, really the last several years. And so we're looking at purchasing bestsellers, in-demand items, keeping up with series. We do purchase member requests. We try to be pretty responsive to our members and really get them the materials that they want and that their users want. And so that has been a big focus in the last couple of years. We also maintain a low holds to copies ratio. And so right now what we do with eRead Illinois is for every 4 holds on an item, we will purchase another copy of that item. And so what that does is that keeps wait times really short for our users. And the cool thing about that, so I just looked last week, I took one of our most popular items that we had purchased in the last month, and we have like 58 copies of it. And if you wanted to get that material, it was John Sanford's Neon Prey, if anybody's familiar with John Sanford and his books. If you wanted that book from eRead Illinois and you put it on hold, it would take you about 2 weeks to get it. And so I took that number and I compared it to the 5 Overdrive consortia that are in Rails right now. And on each one, it would take you at least 6 months to get that ebook from Overdrive. So what we're doing is really working. We're getting those materials into people's hands a lot faster. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're also sort of keeping up ordering on a consistent basis. We do those holds orders every week, so those items get ordered weekly, and then we order new materials for the collection every month. So we're keeping a constant stream of popular stuff coming through the platform. We're also working really closely with Baker and Taylor on platform development, on making sure that they have a good product that we're then giving to our members. The website, Access 360 website, was completely redesigned in November of last year, and it was relaunched, and so they've got this beautiful new mobile website. And we are working really, really hard with them on encouraging them to develop the app to improve the Access 360 app. And they have assured us that this is their number one priority as far as development goes moving forward. Another new thing that I wanted to highlight was our support for members. We're sort of gone through and revamped some of the ways that we're communicating to our eRead members. We relaunched the eRead newsletter in January of this year. It goes out monthly now. You can get on the email list if you want, just let me know. The newsletter includes helpful tips, information, news for our members, sort of updates about the program. I still do trainings for libraries. They're ongoing as requested, and we recently hosted an eRead member update on Wednesday. We had a webinar for our users, and it was well attended, lots of engagement, so we're pretty excited about that. And we're also working on updating the sign up and renewal process to make it a little bit more user-friendly. So that's my update on eRead Illinois. I'm going to talk also about BiblioBoard. So BiblioBoard is our other e-content service that Rails provides. Quick rundown of what it is. It is a collection of simultaneous use ebooks and e-content. It is a lot of ebooks, but it also includes images, video clips, sound recordings, and other primary source materials. The collection is geolocated to the entire state of Illinois, so everyone in Illinois can access the collection without a library card, no login required, and there's no fee for libraries. Libraries don't need to pay for this service, they just have it. You just have it by virtue of the fact that you're inside the state of Illinois. BiblioBoard does offer some additional modules, so we provide the collection to everyone in Illinois. BiblioBoard also has a module where you can create ebooks using Pressbooks software. And then another module where you can create community collections of really any kind of media. So it's been popular for libraries who've wanted to digitize yearbooks. Then they'll put their yearbooks on BiblioBoard, or poetry collections, music collections, things like that. And we do have some member libraries who have added those modules on. It is an additional fee for those. So what's new with BiblioBoard in the last year? So we added over 1,000 educational titles to the collection this year. And the way that we did that is at the ISLE conference last November, we surveyed attendees to sort of figure out if we were to add stuff, what would you be interested in seeing? And we gave them a list of options. And they chose a couple of different publishers, the Time for Kids teacher created materials collection, and then the Avdo collection. So we added a whole bunch of new titles from both those publishers, including subjects included science, math, social studies, humanities, and art, mostly for grade school students. And over 300 of the titles were in Spanish. So we do have we're building a Spanish collection on BiblioBoard as well. We also have some additional resources for educators that we've been highlighting over the last year. A Common Core collection, which includes a lot of those primary source materials. And it also has teaching guides for educators, which is pretty exciting. We've been publicizing the Recovering the Classics collection. If you're not familiar with it, it's a collection of classic ebooks that are available, and they've been given reimagined, modern, updated covers. And it's a way to sort of generate new interest in these classic books. And there's also a collection of open educational and scholarly resources on BiblioBoard that we've been promoting. So another new thing, we've been really bumping up our outreach to schools and other organizations. Several announcements have gone out in Rails e-news, email list, social media. We currently have a Facebook ad campaign running about BiblioBoard. So if you see one of those ads, feel free to share it. I also have presented at a couple of schools at the Kane DuPage County and Chicago Public School Institute Days. I also attended a Spanish Programming and Resources for Kid networking meeting, trying to get the word out about some of these resources. So that's been pretty exciting. We are also working on increasing sort of the emphasis on independently self-published materials. We were talking to BiblioBoard just this week, exploring the possibility of expanding that Pressbooks element of BiblioBoard to the rest of the state. And then I've provided some links if you're interested in checking out those collections, learning more about them, or if you have any questions. Yeah.
So the educational titles sound really great. Is there MARC records available for those?
Not currently, but that was part of the conversation with BiblioBoard yesterday, was working on getting those MARC records to libraries and more API integration with some ILSs, so we're talking about that.
Okay, great. Have you explored anything with streaming media?
Not yet.
You say streaming media?
Yeah.
It's on our brains. I think it went into we talked about it at a previous meeting, so we're thinking about it.
Great.
So this is Laura. So just wondering, is there any way with the ebooks? I kind of feel like as a special, there's not too many resources we could use here. Would there be any way to find ways to have some ebook resources that specials might be able to use? Because I think with the first ebook platform you talked about, only nonprofit specials can use them. And then the second one would have some resources for us, but only if you're in Illinois.
Right.
So that may be a bigger question to answer than in this meeting, but I guess I'm just saying as a special, I would like to see some ebook resources that we would be able to use.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely something that we can look into and consider. For BiblioBoard, one thing I do want to mention is that to access it, yes, it's geolocated to the state of Illinois, but you can create an account when you're in Illinois, and then you can access those resources out of state. So if there is something you find that you can use on BiblioBoard, you can create that account and then leave and continue to access those resources.
And really maybe what specials need is like how maybe we can use these more than we think we can, but we don't know how we can. So maybe it's even like, you know what I'm saying? Like a little additional guidance for us because we're in a little different niche than the other libraries. So if you need some context to work on that, I would definitely be willing to help or to find some people for that.
Absolutely. We're always interested in exploring new avenues of promotion, and so that's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for Anna?
Not a question so much, but I really think Rails development work on Simply E will actually make Access 360 more discoverable by more residents of Illinois. We talk about Overdrive, and Overdrive is, I think, penetrated the consciousness beyond the library land, that patrons who are looking for that content know the Overdrive brand, and they focus on that, unaware of all the other e-resources the libraries provide. So I love what Simply E's potential to make all this content more discoverable.
I love their potential too.
Yes, I think you raise a great point, Laura. I mean, it's, we're always we were just talking the other day about what great stuff there is on BiblioBoard. Not as much, as we would like potentially, but it's we really need to do a better job of explaining it. It's just, it's so rich and robust and diverse that it's easy to explain Overdrive or Access 360, basically. It's bestsellers. Everybody knows what that means. It's harder with with everything else. Saying everything else doesn't really help, but that's kind of what it is, so.
Right, and I know at my library in particular, we worked to try to, how do we integrate this into our systems that we have to give people access to electronic content, and haven't been like that successful with it. So that's why I was asking about MARC records, because that's one way that we integrate it.
Right.
And also, and I'm sure, I don't really know exactly how public libraries do that, but just figuring out how to integrate it.
And they're working on discoverability themselves, and in compatibility with different ILS vendors. So that, I think that's going to help a lot too. So, but it's ongoing, that's for sure.
Right. Thank you. Okay, now we are at Find More Illinois, and that is Jane.
Yes, there is a overview of our first year activity in your packet. Just a couple updates to that. I've heard from 2 more of the pilot libraries that will be continuing in fiscal 20, so that's great news. Still have a few more to hear from, and we are on track to do our upgrade to the next version of the software beginning the evening of May 31st. So Find More will be down that weekend, and we expect to come up on the new software on the following Monday, June. So, were there any questions on the written report?
Okay, I don't hear any questions. Thank you for your report, Jane. And we will move on to new business. At 8.1, Policy Committee Charge. This is an action requested. And Dee, I think you're going to present this.
Well,
I skipped one. I'm off. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
You're right.
No, I'm right. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right.
Sorry.
No, it's time for the state library report. That's what you meant, right?
That's what I missed. Yes.
Yes.
I am sorry.
We can skip.
No. Nobody gets to skip.
Well, good morning, everyone. We won't skip, but it will be rather brief. So, from the point of the state library and what's going on in Springfield right now, certainly the budget resolution for FY20 is the big news. How the progressive income tax could impact that. And I just read moments ago the House Revenue Committee did pass the Senate legislation this morning, so that means it will go to the House for a vote. I do understand also from last night that while they were not scheduled, the House will come back on Sunday evening.
Wow.
So things are progressing. There's a lot of work to be done. Everyone is still, I think, very hopeful in Springfield that things will be resolved by May 31st. Because if this doesn't come together, there's a problem for the state as a whole. It's not, certainly the Secretary of State's office or the state library. It's the state as a whole, and the governor's office has been quite open about what that could be. So we'll see where that goes. There's still some discussion about what could be contained within a capital bill and how to pay for that. That is a big discussion that will still need to occur in the coming days. The General Assembly has had a report from the Secretary of State and State Librarian regarding public library construction since January 1 on the needs there. So we will see what becomes of anything with a capital bill. As far as FY20 from the State Library standpoint, we have really everything now except the 3 library system area per capita grant applications, which aren't due until June 1 anyway. So we've made a lot of decisions in anticipation of budget resolution. So as soon as we have something, we'll make further announcements regarding literacy programs, Project Next Generation, various technology grants, including the library delivery system, which the systems have been working with Carly for. I believe those documents are resolving with the University of Illinois, I think favorably for both systems. That it seems like it is all coming together this year before July 1.
Definitely.
And then, of course, we will be hosting Directors University in our facility beginning June 3rd. We're excited to be a part of that, and your staff here at Mills, Joe, Dan, are going to be heavily involved in that, as well as a number of other libraries here, so within Rails. So it'll be a nice week. So questions, I guess. It's really.
I should say I did sign the contract, the ILDS contract, yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So that's a very happy event for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, yes, and thank you for all your assistance with that.
Very welcome.
It's greatly appreciated.
It was a much simpler process.
Yes, indeed, right? Yes.
And we're good with simple.
And a substantial revenue increase for us, for Rails, which was desperately needed because we were,
glad we could
yes,
deal with that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that report, Greg. Hearing no questions or comments, we will move on to new business with the policy committee charge, and Dee will present.
Okay, do you want to do it, Paul?
Please, ma'am.
Oh, well, okay. All right, well, you have this kind of odd-looking committee charge in your packet, but I don't know why we couldn't get it to, we couldn't move it around. So anyway, frankly, this is the way that the policy committee has been operating for a number of years. As you probably all know, there has been no operations committee for a number of years, which was actually in the old charge. So basically, we just updated it and updated the chairmanship, which again, it has been the vice president of the board for at least 3 or 4 years. So, and we want to get this done because the policy committee is about to start working really hard on the employee handbook. So, any questions? You want to say anything, Paul?
No, I was really glad to see it codified that the committee chair is the vice president of the board. It has been, but
Yeah.
if it's always been that, we should make that clear that that's that position's role.
Okay.
Any questions?
Hearing.
Guess not. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask the same thing. Okay. Hearing no questions, may I have a motion for the approval of the changes of the charge for the policy committee?
So moved.
Second by Jay.
Okay. I think we need a roll call on this one. Can you call the roll, Emily?
I don't think we need a roll call for this.
I'm sorry, it's not marked. So is this all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Motion carried. Okay, next we have the system membership standards, next steps. Discussion only, Dee and Greg.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Greg, for being here.
Welcome.
So this is just an update for you all. There's a memo in the packet which explains that we were directed the board directed the Rails staff to get back to you all by this month with the report on progress and on the data collection, etc. So, I don't remember when we started doing this. Was it 2015?
14, I believe.
Pardon me?
14, I believe.
Okay, it's even worse then. But this has been a big job. This has been a ongoing work. We had a big committee that worked on the development of these standards. Some of you were on that committee. And it has evolved over time. And so I guess at this point, as I say in the memo, we did learn a lot from the data collection, but we also learned there's also been a big change just kind of in the landscape. And I think that's kind of what this update is mostly about. And in a sense that when we started doing this, we were really doing it. We were doing it like by ourselves because that's just the way it was at that point. But as because of how things have evolved and because of work that ILA has done for its own reasons and work that the state library has been doing for its own reasons, we're now kind of all in a different place where we're more able to kind of work together, I think, to figure this stuff out. That being said, these standards were never meant to be about excluding people or libraries. They were never meant to be about punishing anybody. They were meant to be about helping libraries develop and get better. And unfortunately, they weren't always received that way. We've had a lot of consternation, I think, about them. But I think, and we've simplified them over time, and we're going to simplify them again. I think the other interesting thing that's happened, especially for me, is that we have actually hired a data expert on staff. And he says these like really outlandish things like, before you set like standards, you need to have data, as opposed to setting the standards and then getting the data. Really, Grant, But so I think, having learned a lot about just data in general and just kind of what the landscape is out there, we're now, maybe we did it a little bit backwards, but at least we've gotten to this point. So, And so I think, what we're proposing to do, Rails, is to really simplify them and to ask only the questions that really need to be asked and answered. And to work with ILA, which publishes the Serving Our Public, and with the State Library, which does lots of data collection through IPLAR, the Public Library Annual Report, to work on, to try to bring in what is collected or what is required of academic libraries, and to work with school libraries that have requirements but they're not enforced, to try to, somehow bring this all together. And the way Greg has explained it, I think is great, which is, and I'll let him talk in a minute, to truly, really try to get a better understanding of what the library situation is and what library stories are, because we need to be able to know that in order to help them. So I'll let you, please.
I think that, one, there's still work to be done, and
Yes.
a lot of work to be done on
Yes.
both of our parts. We've had some further meetings and discussions on, what our role could be in this, and really as far as the standards and what the elements of that become really would fit more appropriately within the certification process that right now we're doing, so that it would be one simple login by a library to answer the pertinent questions. Rails would have certain questions, Heartland library system, and we must honor that still, but
absolutely.
they are not participating, so it would be a separate set of questions for Heartland, but the system would recognize what area of the state you were coming into or coming from to answer those questions. So it is feasible to do that. I think that truly the issue is, no one is capturing the story of why libraries can't meet certain levels of service, and that is especially true with the school libraries. We all hear, general comments about that. Maybe this would be an opportunity for us to see what really is the issue at the school library level, et cetera. I can't sit here today with, all the answers, but how does that relate then? Because we were asked the question last night at the Heartland board meeting about public library per capita and what will be requested of public libraries as it relates to that, because you're to be responding by statute, which has been there for at least 35 years, since, because I've read it for 35 years, how your library is functioning in comparison to those standards to be eligible for per capita. There's no damage if you don't, the ILA standards. There's no damage there, but we're looking now at how, especially in light of the new document coming out, or is forthcoming from the Library Association, and in FY21, what would be asked, I think we'd be looking at it more as in an entirety of responding to that document versus just bits and pieces of it in certain years. That shouldn't alarm any public libraries here. I think, again, we can address that. But really the requirements for public library per capita grants are quite succinct. It's, you exist, you tax at a certain level, and how do you function in relation to these standards? That's really the heart of the program. And so I think we can do something jointly where we're addressing that at the state level. Now, does that mean, if you aren't functioning at a certain level, you don't get a grant any longer? No, that is not the case. It's, you explain what is occurring. Again, we would be capturing the story of what is occurring at the public library level. So I think we could do something jointly in that way. Dee and I have spoken about, as far as new members coming in, or if a library leaves the system, what would be expected for their return. Certainly, I think that should be addressed from Rails. I think the big issue is all along has been the concern about existing libraries within your membership. As I mentioned to Dee, this would have been a lot easier if you were creating this at the onset of formation of a library system than trying to create this after the fact, and especially after you've had such diverse library systems merged together as one. That's made this even more complicated.
So I have this is maybe too detailed, but so did this include for-profit institution, academic libraries?
Every member of Rails.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not the same
No,
information for
right.
each type of library. It's
So it doesn't. I mean, we're never going to be able to make this perfect, but I'm very much about incremental progress, and I think we are making incremental progress. I mean, I would like, and I've said this to Greg, I think every library should be required to do a strategic plan, and I would hope that we could get to that at some point. It doesn't have to be a big, multi-page thing, but there should be something that that a library has to look at its whole entire, as opposed to just these little pieces. And that's kind of what you just said. You didn't say strategic plan, but and that's something that the system could help with. That should be our job.
I think this is very important work, but coming up with standards and getting everybody at the table sort of to buy into it is crucial. But I always see that as like step one, and step two would be to convince the communities that all these libraries are in that this is meaningful, this is important. Because otherwise we're sort of preaching to the choir. Like librarians know if their libraries have shortcomings, but their hands are tied to fix those shortcomings. We need to convince the communities that
yes,
this is, and I don't know how we're going to pull that off. but
that's advocacy, right?
It is, but it's a tall order.
And
I mean, as a veteran of many failed referenda, I can go to my public and say, look, we need to improve. We're not meeting the standards. And they're going to go, like that. Unfortunately, that's the reality.
I know.
Yeah.
But there's other libraries that are not nearly in the place, in as good a place as your library.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
So I guess that's the perspective that, as always, I mean, we're trying to help everybody, and it's a big, tough thing to help, you guys and Skokie and then, the smallest school or public library.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
I know, Dee, and I sense you feel this has been a long process, but I think it's been a good process. Thanks to the leadership of you and your team and Greg and his team. At risk of making myself sound old again, I remember the last time a system tried to implement system standards, it was a very adversarial relationship that involved legal counsel on both sides. So, I mean, I think that's just a testament to this process. The long has been a good one.
Yes. And yes, it's had its moments, but I think Grant went back and listened to the, was it the 2016? Yeah. And which was pretty rough, right? I actually had pneumonia that day, so I wasn't there. Lucky me, but Grant's heard it and I haven't. But yeah, yes, thank you. I think that's true, and I also think that we've, having ILA now, it's all kind of coming together, and I think that's really important. So it's just kind of serendipity to some degree. So the update, which is to say that, we have more work to do still, but I really feel good about the sort of philosophical place we're at.
I agree.
So. Any other questions, comments? So, and I can't thank you enough, Greg, really, for being so great to work with. Yep.
Position we're in.
Yeah, and it's good. I think it's good for the libraries. So. whether they like it or not. I'm kidding. Kidding.
Thank you, Dee, and thank you, Greg. Next up, we have Dan with a membership change, a new member.
Good morning, everyone. So this is Scott Morgan, CUSD number 2. Dana Ray reached out to us around certification time. She's a new school librarian. She just started her position in the fall. Before that, she was a school librarian in Missouri. I'm not sure if there was a school librarian before her. I couldn't find her in L2, and I couldn't find a lot of information for this particular school district back. It's one of 2 school districts located within Scott County. The other one is Scott County CUSD number 1. There are 3 schools in the school district, but they're all in one campus in Bluffs. And that's the elementary school, the junior high, and the high school. And this particular library serves all 3 schools. I visited Dana about 2 weeks ago, got a tour of the library. They have around 10,000 titles. They're running Destiny as their OPEC. When I talked to Dana, she was interested in grant support from Rails, the per capita grant that schools can get. She's also interested in continuing education and potentially looking at adding ebooks for their library. So for all these reasons, I would appreciate your recommendation for full membership. Thank you. But actually, before I leave, any questions?
Just to help me picture where the school is, Scott County
Is close to Jappy, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, great.
Southern.
I will be Vanna White here.
Directly
Bluffs?
west of Spring.
Yeah, Bluffs is there.
Okay.
And so we're talking the bottom edge of Rails.
Thanks.
Other questions?
It sounds like she was a system member in Missouri. I mean, they
think so.
have pretty robust systems there, I think. So that's good.
It's good.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I don't have it marked on my agenda. Are we taking a vote here? To
Yes, you're
approve?
voting to
Okay.
to recommend
I'm sorry.
to the state library. No, that's okay.
I thought so. It's just not on here. So, okay, can we have a motion to accept this new member?
So moved.
Second, Scott.
Okay. All in favor of accepting this school, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always nice to see a new school coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is the June board meeting. Location. We have not decided upon the location for the June board meeting. It was suggested that it would be in East Peoria. I may be due to the fact that it's my last board meeting. And I appreciate you thinking of me. So any discussion on that?
If
So
I may,
I had
I think that would be very
Yeah.
appropriate.
yeah.
Anybody
Go
else
ahead,
have
Laura.
anything? Well,
I'll just
one thing I was.
No,
Go ahead, Paul.
I agree. I agree with Dave. I think it would be really appropriate, one, to have the meeting, since it is your last meeting as our member and also as our board president. And I've always been an advocate for the system board to travel around the system as much as we can. I think it's important that we recognize all the different service areas that we have. That was me, ma'am.
Yep. I'm talking, I could hear you, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Paul. So I really appreciate everyone's willingness to come to my neck of the woods for the last meeting. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to throw it out there. I'm not sure with the Open Meetings Act we can do this, but if we could, would there be interest in having it at a Caterpillar facility? And I'm thinking of our Morton facility because it is the easiest one for people to access over the highway or off the highway. It's also our distribution facility, our parts distribution, and they do give tours to the public of our parts distribution system. I've done the tour, it's pretty cool. I'm just not sure with the Open Meetings Act we can do it, or if the board has interest in seeing a little piece of Caterpillar.
Well, it would be lovely, but I think the fact that we couldn't do it on Polycom is, I don't know if if we had to do it by phone, is that a problem, Greg?
Thought you could do it by phone.
So-
Modify that for you.
Okay, well, I think it's a lovely idea if people want to do it. It's just a question of whether we can, we need to verify that we can do it by phone, I guess. And it would mean, I think, Laura, that you would have to let people in, members of the public. So.
I think I may be able to do that, but I don't want to make it more a hassle than it's worth. I only want to do it if people want to do it. If there's no interest and East Peoria is just easier, then we can go with that. I'm just throwing it out there. I'd really like if people do it, I'll investigate it. If East Peoria is easier, let's just do East Peoria.
Well, it's up to you guys. The staff will do whatever. I mean, we're happy to do whatever. So, because we'll be there. We'll be where the meeting is, no matter what. So.
I don't know if we're individually weighing in here, but
well, somebody's going to have to weigh in.
Somebody's going to say something.
But the previous Friday being ALA, I have 2 meetings on the 28th, a morning and an afternoon, so I won't be able to go to East Peoria, which is not a problem. Probably come in or call, but that's what I'm going to be doing is remoting in however we can.
I also will have to be joining by phone or Polycom, actually by phone, because I'm going to be in Chicago today, so I wouldn't be able to join. I know, unfortunately.
East Peoria or Morton is, either one is fine for me. It's closer to me. Caterpillar, see if it would work out, or East Peoria.
So maybe we should all investigate.
Laura, I think that would be a good idea to investigate options are, and a better idea of how many of all the what all the changes we might have to make in order to make it at that sounds like a fantastic idea to me. But however, the details that need to be worked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to say something, Tom?
Laura, having been through the Morton facility, it is a very robust facility, and it's state of the end. I think the group would learn a lot from that visit.
So I would be happy to offer a motion that the June board meeting be at the Morton facility if practical with OMA and other logistical concerns. If not, then default to the East Peoria Rails location.
It's an excellent motion.
Can somebody just let me know since I'm the OMA person?
Since you're not what?
OMA. So I need to make sure that we're in line.
Yes, our OMA officer is just making sure notified.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'm reading it.
Okay.
You could do it
Okay, Greg has an update.
if your own procedural rules don't prevent it.
Okay.
For the library systems,
bylaws.
Right, by
Okay.
other means, only in accordance with and to the extent allowed by the specific procedural rules adopted by the body. So I
Okay.
don't know what your bylaws state about this.
Well, I would suggest that we go with Paul's motion, assuming that,
And research.
and Dave seconded it, and then we can, and then because I'm sure when we get to the bylaws, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's then something else that we have to.
Yeah, who knows? So.
Well, that
Right,
is
and
my
that'll make-
suggestion.
Okay. So, all in favor of meeting in Morton and defaulting to East Peoria if that does not work for our June meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, we will move to unfinished business in the system capita grant application, and Dee will discuss.
Yes, and Jim's going to help me, aren't you, Jim? Okay, so you have a lot of information in your packet, whether it's paper or electronic. And some of this you've seen before, notably the draft plan of service, but just to sort of give you an overview. So the first few pages are the budget form as required by the state library. And then we move into the system area and per capita grant, which, as I say, we did look at last time, which I went through in some detail. And I guess at this point, I would say that, in the summary on page 1 there of the plan of service, right after form, you see all of our major projects and how, and that's what you then is detailed throughout the plan of service, and that's how the money gets spent. It's at a very high level. That all makes sense. So you see all, and so, Jim writes this magnificent detailed budget narrative, which helps to, track, this narrative tracks right with the plan of service. So this is I should have said, this is the narrative, the plan of services. After the narrative, this is all the budget in detail, revenue and operating. For example, on page 4 is where you see that's all the expenditures related to staff, which is obviously a big portion of the budget. A 3% salary increase is factored in here, but not, none of that will not be enacted unless obviously it's up to the board to approve it, but then beyond that, we won't do it until what we have done in the past is wait until the budget is passed, so we actually know we have the money in hand. So then, more about operating expenditures, buying a bunch of vehicles this year, miles we put on them, and then the repair bills we have that I know that we all think that we should buy vehicles more often because everybody's nodding their head over there on that side of the room. You'll see a big increase, this is on page 6, in public relations, which is really, that's where the library, the campaign to tell the library story, that's living there. So, we got so much feedback about that in our strategic plan, and people, really want us to do that and really, so that's.
Would that category be the same as advocacy, or is it going to be separate, different?
Well, advocacy is kind of built in, but yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Together.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. There's a lot. You'll see on page 7 of this narrative. You'll see the budget for consulting at the top there, which is the things that the projects that we sort of work with experts on, like the FOIA hotline. That's available to the whole state. the HR source, the discount for members. We're thinking of it's time to do an evaluation of our outsourcing, so that's what that statewide delivery consultant is. It's time for us to look at our salary schedule again. That's what the wage level, lots of contractual services. On page 8 is what we expect to be, well, what we are, our support for LSAPs, and that's huge. It's a big part of the budget. And then on page 9 is about we allocate the budget percentage-wise by program. In other words, by resources, according to resource sharing versus continuing education and consulting. The line item budget that the state library requires doesn't help you understand the way the money is spent. This budget narrative and the budgeted expenditure per strategic plan goal helps you see how the dollars track with what we say we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing. So then is the detail budget. Then is the plan of service. And then I do want to draw your attention at the end of which is quite a ways through this. Section 3.2 of this application is the statewide service collaboration. And this lists all the projects that Rails does that are statewide. And I think that's really important for you to see because we do not just serve Rails members. And that's by design because, all boats rise or all boats don't. And then there's all kinds more detail. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know how much into. We could be here for days. But basically, we tell you, we try to tell you on a regular basis what it is we're doing. There's really very little that's revolutionary. Well, there's nothing revolutionary. We're doing a different video, but it's a video, We're doing LSAP membership grants, but that will be for different libraries, but it's the same program. Can I answer any questions? Anything you want more information about? This has to go to the state library by June 1st. Oh, there's our bylaws.
I'm questions. Okay, with no questions, may I have a motion and a second to approve the system area per capita grant?
So moved by Jay.
So moved.
Second?
Second, by Liza.
Okay. Emily, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Dave Barry.
Yes.
Sue Busenbark.
Yes.
Liza Campbell.
Yes.
Ann Gregory.
Yes.
Dave Keston.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Nadia Sheikh.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons.
Yes.
Tom Stagg.
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes. Motion. So next up, we have the universal service update from Dee.
Yeah, thank you. Trying to find that now. Is this it? Yes. Okay. So we've been doing some work on this. I would update you all. So, and there's a short memo in your packet. So, taking it from the top. So, yes, I have been in contact with some real estate agents, and I have a sense that this is going to be a heavy lift, unfortunately. So, I emailed the Illinois Association of Realtors and heard back from a woman who, humorously enough, was named Debbie House. Which is quite funny. And she tried to help me, but she didn't understand that I wasn't a realtor. So I think that was her. So I have a friend in Oak Park who's a realtor, and I was saying to her that, I mean, she was impressing upon me that this is a very local, that the real estate world is very local, very, kind of separate that way. And I said, well, maybe Oak Park would like to be a leader in this. So I don't know, maybe I can get them. But real estate agents will have a real desire to do this. I have no idea. I haven't yet been able to have a conversation really with anybody about it.
So I had a thought about
Yes.
this. So is the National Association of Realtors Library a Rails member?
Yes.
I wonder if they would have some.
That's a good idea. I will ask. I will ask. Thank you. We're gonna put together a survey. We're gonna ask public libraries how they are serving the unserved. And our attorneys to provide us with some information on how we might amend the Library District Act to enable non-district libraries to merge. And so they are working on that. I have had some conversations with my resident library district experts, Paul Mills and Scott Poynton. We're going to have a conversation after this meeting because there's a lot of things to consider, but maybe there's something that we can do. Well, I'm sure there is, just a question of what. And so for we're going to bring this to ILA as a public policy, and I think that it could be helpful. It's just a small piece, but it might help to even bring in some unserved residents. That's why we're working on it. We are going to be making our more helpful in helping members find information on this topic, and the State Library has offered to look at the question of why people are unserved, which it seems kind of obvious, but maybe it's not. Maybe there are different reasons why they're not taxed, and I think the more we know, the more it will help us to solve it. And Grant's going to be looking at demographics about the unserved residents and what, whether is it rural, is it urban, all the different reasons why it happens. So that's more information is needed. Happy to answer any questions.
A request from the State Library. When you're
Yes.
doing your survey and we've talked about this a little bit, and I was looking at this quite closely this week with two of your members, on what the questions asked in the public library annual report about how many cards you're issuing, the revenue, et cetera. The math is not.
Oh, I remember, we've talked about this before. It doesn't
computing.
make sense.
No.
Okay.
It's just not there. If you need $77, it's simple math. You should be generating a certain amount of money, and it's not. So I don't know. The accuracy of that, why is that important? I think it's very important because it gets to the point of how many people are really interested in this. If we were to put this to a vote, are we really selling 50 or 2? And there are some. I mean, I looked at the largest library in the state. They sell 20.
You're talking about CPO?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they sell any, though.
Well, you would think nobody would get there, but I thought it would be higher than just 20.
Really?
So, I
mean,
don't
there's-
know. And then, people speaking about what they're doing with non-resident cards. But if we, that's going to be a request to both library systems, because I think that's important to really grasp what
Sure.
is the reality out there.
I mean, Chicago's surrounded by
One would think.
libraries, but still.
Well, I don't know how this plays into it or how we could count it, but people that use an academic library as their public library because they don't have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens out west college in the Rockford area somewhere that
Highland Community College,
Yeah.
which I think you're thinking of.
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah.
It's very complex when you add that,
Right.
add that in, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what we get. And I mean, I don't know, I'm sure, maybe there are things that about.
It's possible.
Not to do it,
Right.
I'm serious, but we figure, well, we have to ask, we have to try to find out. So. That's it, I'm done, Laura.
Okay, good discussion. All right, we are at Rails board member report. Would like to share what is happening at their library.
I think Paul would like to share something.
I would like to share it, but it's not happening at my library. But actually, normally this our board president would do this, but our board president is not geographically co-located with us. So as vice president, I would like to token for board member Liza, thanking her for her service. So thank you so much. We will miss you, but Pensacola is beautiful. So there's that.
It's gonna go on the wall in my new office in Pensacola. I was a board member for one whole year. Almost 20 years.
Thank you, Liza.
Really, truly, honestly, I've actually learned a lot in the, how many months? In the few months that I've been here. So
Well, that's
thank you
good.
for the opportunity.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
Congratulations on your new position, Liza. Best of luck in Florida.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone who wants to share anything else that's happening at their library?
So at White Oak Library District, we're Comicopolis event. It's July 27th. It's a Saturday. This is our 5th anniversary of this event. It's a Comic-Con type event. 5 years ago, we kind of had a crazy idea of creating a Comic-Con and sort of planting a flag in the ground and saying, this is going to be the con for the southwest suburbs. And borne fruit, we did over 1,000 attendees. This year, the city has finally sort of caught on to the fact that this is a huge thing in their downtown, the city of Lockport, I should say. And they've thrown a bunch of money into the hat, so we're really expanding it this year, and who knows how big it's going to be, but it's going to be big, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Lockport.
That's great.
Something that's happening for both Scott and I, we share a school district, so we'll both be starting up our summer lunch program with the Valley View School District, providing lunch for those under 18, which is also, I think, for both of us, has proven a good library. We certainly at our facility see people come for lunch, and then they go to story times that we've got, running, and other programs and services. All at the same time, we're doing our 2nd annual Lawyers in the Library program. So we're going to have 16 attorneys in our facility offering free consultations, and are very popular last year. So we're happy to bring it back this year with even more attorneys. So
wow,
that's great.
Wow.
Paul and Scott, do you get any pushback from the bigger community regarding free meals? That maybe that's not a library's function?
We have not, and we have the Northern Illinois Food Bank coming once a month to our Romeo facility to give away food as well, and the residents love it. So,
it is federal funding that provides this program, at least for the Valley View program, I should say. I know they have occasionally received questions about it, but I've not really received any feedback about having this service at our library. And in conjunction with that, actually, 2 residents, a father-daughter team, built a food micro pantry, although it's really large. It's not a micro pantry. I mean, it's a macro pantry. That they did an amazing job matching the architectural structure of our building and put this food pantry in, and just really warmly embraced by our community. We did have one of our major food pantries in our community closed down last year, so this is definitely, there was a void there, and this macro pantry, as I'm going to call it, it has in some ways helped fill that. So, and it definitely drives interest into the library as well, and welcoming for all. That's just another way I think that we do that.
Thank you.
So I could share at the University of Illinois at Chicago, we recently had the end of our semester, and so this is a thing that happens at academic libraries, is at the end of the semester you often have a lot of events for students who are stressed out. We have been doing these kind of events for a while, but they've been growing, and we also do them at different sites, like at our main daily library on the East Campus, as well as on our health science libraries. And we have things like chair massage, movies, doing puzzles. We have a hostess up with notes about how they're feeling. We always are trying different events, and so we've been having hundreds of students participate in these events at the end of the semester and really drawing people into the library as well as providing stress relief for our students. We also have coffee and snacks. Our daily library is open 24/7 for several weeks during that part of the semester, as well as the health science library in Chicago. So you can see that there's students that are in there a lot. Like they just there, they never leave.
Right. With their pillows, right?
Right, yeah. They just lie down on the page lying there. So, but that's all over now, so we all breathe a sigh of relief and move on.
You and the students, I'm sure,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Okay, anyone else with anything to share? All right. I always enjoy hearing what people are doing in their libraries. That's one of my favorite parts of the meeting, so I'm grateful when people share. Okay, we will move on to agenda building for the next Rails board meeting. Our next board meeting will be held Friday, June 20, determined. On the agenda, we will have a slate of officers presented by the nominating committee, a review of the dates of the fiscal year 2000 board meetings, and a report on the Rails IT infrastructure and services. Anything else they would like to add to next month's agenda? Okay, hearing no suggestions, we will move into closed session. I'm sorry, I do have a statement that must be read about closed session. So, the board will move into closed session to discuss the matters pertaining to personnel as per 5 Illinois Complied Statutes, Chapter 120, Paragraph 2, Section C1, which states, a public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Okay, now that I've read the statement, may I have a motion and a second that the Rails board move into closed session?
So moved. So moved, Paul.
Second, Mike.
Okay, Emily, will you call the roll?
Dave Barry.
Here.
Sue Busenbart.
Yes.
Liza Campbell. Yes. Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Wayne Gregory.
Yes.
Jay Cassidy.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Scott Boynton.
Yes.
Nadia Shake. Michelle Simmons. Yes. Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Emily,
Yes.
what are we
Thank you.
doing for recording
Have a good
device?
weekend.
Okay, we're ready.
May I have a motion that the Rails Board move into open session? Dave, second by Jay. Emily, can you call the roll?
Dave Berry.
Here.
Sue Busenbark.
Here.
Liza Campbell.
Here.
Michael Campbell.
Here.
Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Jake Gaston.
Here.
Paul Mills. Simmons. Thomas Stagg.
Here.
Laura Turner.
Here. Okay, oop. I heard a.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Yep.
Okay, we are at item 14, actions and follow up to closed session. I don't believe we're taking any action now, are we? Aren't we
Yes,
doing the
we-
action at the next?
Yeah, we're gonna do that motion.
Yes, I would like to move that we award Executive Director Deidre Brennan a 4% bonus.
I'll second that.
Okay,
you
did
very
you get
much.
that, Emily?
Sue Busenbark.
Yes.
Liza Campbell.
Yes.
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Jake Gaston.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Nadia Shake.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons. Thomas Stagg.
Great. Okay, we will move into item 15, adjournment. I want to thank everyone. It's not easy on the Polycom when I'm here. I apologize for not being there in person. I just had a lot
You
of
did a
conflicts,
great
but
job.
I would like to call this Rails Board meeting to adjournment at 12:09 p.m. Thank you and have a great Memorial Day weekend.
You too, Laura.
Good job, Laura.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Go White Sox.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that.
For them.
Are they? They're not. Are they playing? Are they playing each other this weekend?
No. This